Yeah, we're late. We are late. Yeah, it's the joys of technology. Okay. Anyway, good afternoon, folks. Welcome to Smudcast number 861. Romantasy books are toxic, lazy, conservative propaganda. Interesting. I have a mom, and she has some friends, and they read those books, and some of them like them, some of them don't. But I don't think they've ever said they were political. I think they were all flowery and sort of slaying dragons and all sorts of other fantasy elements in their romance. No idea about the politics, so maybe we're missing something here. I have no idea. Anyway, this is from a YouTuber called Willow Talks Books, and this came out 9 days ago. It has about 56,000 views, and it's pretty healthy. Everyone seems to like it who watches this stuff. 25 minutes long. I don't think we're going to go that long, but we'll get the general feeling of this video and see if it's worth our time. All right. I think we're all set to go, and here we do it.
Once crossed the street to get away from because he looked a little bit unsavory and suspect. And then when you finally did cross the street, he catcalled you and shouted misogynist.
No one's catcalling you, sir. No one. I don't know what life experiences you've had, but that's not happening.
Is that you? Imagine if that guy was to the romantasy genre, a popular blend of romance and fantasy that is just toxic, lazy, conservative propaganda. Except for the good stuff. And there is some good stuff. And the good stuff is queer. Because of course it's queer.
Wait. So the genre is good.
You have a bit of a bias here.
Yeah, provided it has queer people in it, therefore it's good. But if it has any normal heterosexual romance...
Your literature doesn't get qualitatively better just because you have a paragraph about sticking a dick in a bum.
I don't know what conservative versions of fantasy romance is. I really don't. Maybe it's like feudalism. I couldn't tell you.
Regular fantasy.
Just normal fantasy.
The boy gets the girl. Yes, that is toxic. Right there.
In the normal stuff, the romance scenes are not explicitly written out because that's cringe. Yeah. And you really only have that in fetish novels,
right,
whether that is about the mountain doctor, or the pirate lord, or the werewolf that you tame.
Right.
No, that is just women sexual fantasy crap.
And it's fine. It's if you like that crap, that's for you. I mean, that's why you read it, right? But for him to say that this is all bad except the one that I like, it's like, wait a second. You can't throw the entire... Like, we're comparing apples to apples, essentially, right? You can't say this apple is by far superior because I like it the best. It's like, no. What about this apple is better than the other apple? What is the difference? Show me. That's all we need to do here. And then they could say, I prefer this apple. That's great.
Queer, I'm drinking a nice latte. Okay, fine. I'm joking. Except I'm not joking. So
okay, shut this. I hate this nonsense. This yes, but no. But I'm really kidding. It's like no. Make up your damn mind when you say something. I'm sick and tired of this doublespeak from these people every single time. It's as soon as I hear that, I turn the video off. But of course, we just started. We'll give this person some leeway.
They have to be funny.
Yeah, I know. You have to entertain someone. They have to fill in the void.
The emphasis is on attempt.
Sorry, not sorry. I just hate whenever I hear sorry, not sorry. My brain just goes, oh, this child.
Yes.
I have talked a lot on this channel about a genre that really, really intrigues me. It is the most popular genre of fiction in the world right now.
Okay.
So
no.
Escapism. That's just the most popular genre in the world is porn. And that is what you're reading.
It's a version. Porn. It's a version of porn, yes.
Yes, effectively.
Well, when it's about, it's queer, then you are reading it because of your porn fantasy.
Right.
Nothing else.
And again, there's nothing...
Because of maybe it's an escapism, that's okay.
Yeah, there's nothing...
People need escapism. All right.
We're not here to...
But that doesn't mean it's better.
Yeah, we're not here to judge the person liking this flavor of whatever. It's fine. You can like whatever you like, but you can't start bashing all my fetish is better than your. It's like, no, stop it. Just stop it. You're egotistically stupid.
Just because it has your gay fetish or something even more weird in it doesn't make it better than Terry Pratchett or Walter Mörs or Shakespeare.
Yeah, this is why
or Tolkien.
I like to be agnostic with all the genres, because you could read, you can consume whatever you like. Some people like science fiction, that's very popular. Some people like fantasy, that's also big. But to say, well, fantasy is much better than science fiction, it's like, wait a second, what are you talking about?
No, the sorry. The big joke is that this kind of literature has always been there. It's just that now there's a bigger emphasis on the gay romance because authors have noticed, women are actually into that like hell. Which is, we see the same thing in manga.
Yeah.
The main buyers of, to put it bluntly, lesbian manga and gay manga are both females of various ages.
I haven't counted all the yaoi artists. I don't know if they're male or female because I don't read them, but I'm assuming
a lot of them are women.
Yeah, I'm assuming they're female.
Most are women.
Yeah.
And in part you can tell by the drawing style.
Oh yeah,
they're
very elegant. They're very almost
only for the strangely enough for the under 18-year-old female audience. Above that, they seem to buy the burly, rough monster guys more.
Okay.
I've asked my local comic shop. That's how the sales go. I'll trust him on that. You have a split in the age groups.
All right. 1 minute in.
And that comes with a lot of good and a lot of bad. I do not inherently hate romantasy, but I do genuinely believe that most of it is toxic, lazy, conservative propaganda.
Okay, this is already, my brain is just...
I get, oh god. I can go with lazy. Toxic? No. That's just because it's badly written. If you want to talk about toxic things, that would be Dune Book 6.
Okay,
that is definitely.
We're not.
I'm not gonna. Don't worry. I'm just gonna name drop it. Do not read unless you like nonsense like the ending of Stephen King's It
or Wheel of Time or any of these other really poorly befuddled.
Yeah.
And they lost the writers, so they have to try and make up whatever they want to keep the franchise alive, sort of deal.
They just write for that one scene they have in their heads, and you can tell the writer's fetish always by that scene being 500 times better in quality because it ran 500 times more often through the head of the author because he keeps constantly fantasizing about it, which is why all of a sudden you have way more adjectives. It's way more flowery. The sentence structure is better. It's almost captivating no matter how gross it is. And then it goes back to the normal text of the book, which is just the first draft.
In diction alone, if you guys want to tell romantic or creative ideas with flowery language, be very specific on your adjectives, and it doesn't matter what you're describing. It could be a doorway, it could be the sun, it could be your pain. You're going to get your reader interested because you're painting such a beautiful picture, and it keeps the story in the same level. But yeah, there's all kinds of great writing techniques to keep your readers, your audience hooked. And never changing your diction. That's a good one to keep it consistent. Anyway.
Have to be, and of course, not all of it is. But just for anyone who doesn't know, what exactly is romantasy? Well, to put it as simply as I can in a single sentence, romantic fantasy stories are stories set in a fantasy world where the romance between two characters is the focal point of the tale. Seems pretty simple, right? So why is it so toxic and lazy? And why am I calling it conservative propaganda? That seems a little bit extreme. Luckily, I have proof. Now, before anyone jumps down my throat, and before I really tear
Probably because it's not about polyamorous things, but only two people, because two gays or two women is not enough at this point.
There's got to be more than that. There has to be.
Just a guess.
There has to be more. You can't just say that, because if that's all it is, I'm turning this guy off. He's so dumb. He's a waste of time. If he's just defining it as male and female, it's disgusting. It's horrible. It's like, shut up.
Somebody feels
just resigned Yeah, I love how Wisp is just resigned and Svenja's mother just, please, no, please, let it not be that.
But I
Just
didn't hear that
desperation.
right.
Anyway,
No,
this
I have
entire
a
genre to
clue
pieces.
of
I do need to
something.
state very clearly and honestly
No
that
way.
I understand
I really don't like this guy's glasses. Something is off with those frames.
Yeah, they don't fit. Like if you transition, why would you go for the horrible feminist glasses? At least they're not red.
Yeah, well.
At least they're not red.
is so popular and why so many people love it. Now, you're probably aware that the world is pretty dismal. Things are not going well for most people. I know. I'm a trans woman living in the UK. I'm very aware of that. And one of the many
Oh yeah, this is because of all the Muslims, right? That want to throw you off roofs.
Okay. Let's not get into that. Anyway.
He started it.
every kind of art form is escapism, to distract us from the world that we live in and present us with something fun and exciting.
Okay, so if everything you read is escapism and everyone likes their own version of escaping the pain of reality, are you just like not into the heterosexual version of the genre you love? And therefore it's
there's a very special site that nobody else goes to, please. And I don't need to advertise that.
it's like
She knows Fiction Mania.
it's like my happy space or my happy time where I escape with my space wars and my spaceships or whatever. It's like, yeah, no, that's good for me, but it's horrible for everyone else. They don't know how smart I am. They just don't know.
I rather think this is somebody who is upset that the favorite fetish escapism is only found on obscure internet websites and not in the bookshelves at Barnes and Noble.
Which is weird because fan fiction is the easiest thing to write in terms of quality. So if you have your own thing that you want to do, that's like a fanfic for a story you enjoy but you hate because it doesn't have your fetish or it doesn't have the character doing you want it to do. There's all kinds of fan fiction that you could start easily.
And as with Sturgeon's Law, 999 out of 1,000 submissions are shit. There is a good one there. I have seen them. I don't understand how sometimes on these fan fiction sites that have millions of submissions, most of it utter garbage. There are gems there that really, and you can tell the gem in part by, well, yes, it does contain the thing that the specific fan fiction site is about, but it is woven in so well that it is itself just a side issue, and just you have just generally good writing and good characters and good world building and everything, and that is what makes a good story. Not the fetish.
I have noticed that what was it called? The visual novels of like the 90s, like some of the porn games, the dating sims, they're pretty boring as they go, meaning boy meets girl and all the drama involved. There's always all the interesting stories have some sort of time travel or some sort of fantasy element or some sort of sci-fi element that make it better, make it bigger, because it's too mundane. It's too simple if all you're doing is porn or all you're doing is romance. Not to say that the visual novels that just do romance are bad. There's actually some really good ones in the 90s as well as the 2000s. But that was always what I remember. It was like, oh yeah, there was some crazy genetic thing or some crazy science fiction travel thing. So that was always like what was it? Invader Lum. Like that was the idea of this strong woman, that alien who comes out of nowhere. But it's just a romance story, outside of her being a princess from an alien world. So you want a little bit more, like Ramza, 1/2. It's not just Ranma. Sorry, Ramza. I was thinking of Final Fantasy Tactics. Like that's not just a romance. There's all a bunch of girls there, but there's more going on than just a bunch of kids falling into water and transforming into the dead spirits. Anyway,
and interesting for us to lose ourselves in and forget our lives, forget our reality, at least for a little while. That's what video games are for. It's what action movies are for. It's what fantasy stories are for. A few months ago, I went through a really, really stressful and difficult time, and I gave up reading the usual genres that I turn to every day, and instead I was reading lots.
You read books every day? Okay, that's cool. I guess,
That's good.
Everyone's got their thing.
Hey, don't shit on books.
Romantic fantasy.
If you're reading porn every day, there might be a problem.
Wait. I didn't catch that because I was...
I'm just saying.
With you shitting on books.
Well, you can't... Even books, I mean, you can't read Aristotle every day. That'll drive you crazy.
Yeah, that's why after you're done with the book, you take another and read the other book, and then the next, and then the next, and then the next. But the same thing that you should do with your Steam library.
Well, if you have a healthy daily routine where you read, you exercise, you have some tea, you eat, you do your, you have your routine. That's healthy. It doesn't really matter what you do, as long as you have that pattern where it's not just physical, or mental. It's like exercise, get your heart going, reading, get your brain going. That's fun.
And I have different places for different things that I read. For example, anything mythological and philosophical, I read at the comic shop, believe it or not. Relaxing stuff on the couch or in the training room, and everything regarding psychology I read on the shitter. Because shit goes in, shit goes out.
All right, okay.
And it helps. It helps you process.
Day, and instead, I was reading lots of fantasy fiction, including romantic fantasy, because it was a distraction, because it was escapism, because it made me feel happy and comfortable and safe, but also intrigued and emotionally stimulated. But the big problem for me, and something that genuinely confuses me no matter how much romantasy I read, and I've read quite a few at this point, is what exactly defines escapism when it comes to romantasy.
Okay, this is silly.
Romantasy is not really escapism in the sense that you get into an interesting world. It exists for you to get entrenched in the relationship dynamics and the romance between two characters. That is a soap opera. You're reading soap operas. That's women literature.
The idea of enjoying a book is escapism. There's no other need to go further, because you could enjoy a movie and be having a good time, enjoying the movie, whatever the movie is. You call that good writing. You call that a good production value. You're there in the moment and you're enjoying everything. That's it. That's escapism. You're no longer thinking about everything else. You're just doing the one thing.
My favorite book about Greco-Roman architecture is basically escapism. Even though your brain starts smoking if you read it, because the guy who wrote it, professor of the local arts university from the 60s, he puts in these sophisticated half-page long sentences that are absolutely divine. I love it. But it's to me, it's like I have not learned more about Rome in any other book than this one. And it mainly focuses about these cultural aspects, but I can see it all in my mind. Like a rotating apple, just that it's Rome rotating, and the villas of the emperors, which are described like dungeons in D&D, because they are so crazy they basically built them like that. And that's escapism for me, because I'm weird. And you can do that too. Just buy something that is not fantasy or science fiction, buy something that is interesting about history, about other cultures, and it's basically the same thing, but it has more substance, and that's the cool thing. It's not just, oh, how could things be? No, it's how things are.
All right,
and it's still cool.
Because escapist elements of fantasy fiction is providing you with a living and breathing world that is different from your own world, and yet something that you can recognize and attach yourself to and place yourself in and feel it and see it and breathe it in. But most romantasy books are guilty of having terrible world building. I do not believe the worlds that I...
The world building is your problem, not the writing itself. The problem of most of these romance stories, and that was always a thing, is that they're in general terribly written. But I understand that people don't even notice that. Oh, I've read 1,000 books. I can tell what good writing is. Somebody recently wanted to tell me that Shad's book is well written. And that is a crime against literature.
Okay.
Do you want me to elaborate? would love to.
We've gone through.
We'll be here tomorrow.
When did he publish his book? Last year or was it 2 years ago? I can't remember.
What? No, that thing is from I think 2017 or something.
Oh,
18.
really? Oh, forget it then. Anyway,
It's old. It's old.
It's been
but the print is horrible. It's horrible to touch even.
Okay.
Seriously?
Seriously. Oh, I'll show you next time you come over. And I found another restaurant that serves Duckstein. It's a good pizzeria. But anyway, the book, it's this weird paper that is I don't know, glazed in something. It feels like oil, like you're touching sticky oil. It's disgusting to hold.
Let's not get into that.
So it's like touching a magazine?
Let us not.
Worse, but that's just how it starts. So the haptic is already dead, and then I think, okay, I'll try anyway because everybody can fuck up a print.
Get into something that we've talked about a long time. Anyway, let's keep going.
Have we?
Fiction. I've said before that it feels with a two-dimensional backdrop and cardboard cutouts of characters. Good fantasy fiction creates a world that is so vivid you genuinely believe it could exist.
Write something yourself.
It would be so well realized that the food and the politics, the history, the fashion, the social behavior of the people, it would all be fully realized, fully considered, and fully functioning. That is never the case with bad romantasy fiction, and most of it is bad.
Because it's not about that. It's about fucking.
I mean,
that's why it's romantasy. It has nothing to do with romance.
Okay, so the keyword I think here is bad.
Yes.
The person just said bad romantasy fiction.
Yeah, it's all bad.
What are you think of something that you think is bad?
Yeah, as I said. The problem is that it's not written to be good. It's written for the 2-3 romance scenes. Romance in quotation marks. It's just fucking. We all know it's just fucking. There was a wonderful, horrible, as they all are, South Park episode about this, when Mr. Garrison decided to become an erotic novelist author. And he wrote erotic novels for women, and he figured out. He explains it directly into the camera. All they are is women don't read all the 300 pages. They skim through the book until they get to the page with the penises, and that's all he does. He writes these 2-3 pages that are this really gross gay stuff. So as explicit as the boys episode with the orgy, and that's it. The rest is filler. The rest is just there so that it looks like a book. And I've seen women do this because I frequent bookstores and libraries, and I've been at gothic parties where there is the tourist goth as well who reads what was it at the time? 50 Shades of Grey it was at the time. And it's just going through the book, like boop, 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 boop. Next scene that's arousing. Boop, 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 boop. Next scene that's arousing. Boop, 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 boop. And then the kind of girl tells you, oh yeah, she's reread the book 50 times at this point. Yeah, she's not reread the whole book 50 times. She's reread the fetish scenes 50 times. Because that's all they do. And that's all it is. You cannot find what you're looking for by buying more of this crap. You have to write it yourself. Well, just like that 1 in a million good stories on that website I mentioned before that you do not get to.
Well, it seems as this person wants the world-building element of fantasy writing, and that is very important to fantasy. You have to establish many things in a fantastical world, because it's not Earth. It's some other place. It's Earth-like. It has trees. You have to describe those. It has water. It has air. It has all kinds of mythical elements that need detail, and that's a big investment. So you could argue that the subgenre of romance and fantasy are at odds with each other, because romance wants to get to the drama, to the interpersonal relationship stuff, which is all he said, she said, he looked at her and she looked at him, and all that jazz. And fantasy is all about the world and the setting and the timeline and who's who and who, what's that thing flying in the air and what's all that light flashing in the sky.
Fantasy is in the end just, there's a castle, there's a princess, there's a dragon, and there's a guy who slays the dragon to get the princess. Bam.
Yeah, so world building is important, but I would argue there's a certain element of it's not just the physical world. It's how the people interact with the world.
Sorry.
And what the plot is in that world that make you want to be in that world. So it's more or less to do with the characters. And that's why I don't care if the author is describing the world through the characters or the author is describing the characters or the emotions of the characters. To me, it's the same concept, the same time frame. You're doing the same things, and you could do both. So I don't know exactly what this person wants, because when you say to me fantasy or romance fantasy, to me that means both. So all you're doing is doing double duty as an author, and you should know to do world building and drama.
Fantasy part of
Goethe's
Romantasy
Faust is
barely
basically
exists.
fantasy.
These worlds are just two-dimensional backdrops for toxic relationships to flourish. Romantasy is
Yeah, but some of those
You mean
romances...
relationships that have problems and that get solved across the story?
That's what I'm trying to say, is that in most romance stories you have a negative romance, or you have a love triangle, or some sort of conflict that's romantic in nature, like an ex-boyfriend or something like that. So that's like, you need something like, if it's a positive story, that means there's all these guys and girls, or one girl and lots of guys, or vice versa, and everyone's like getting along, and they all understand the articles of war, and you get a date on Tuesday and you get a date on Thursday, and we're all getting along like that. That could happen in your story. I've never seen it happen properly. So yeah, I've seen it in short stories, because the plot is specific, but no, not in the novellas. So
generally good fantasy. But I do have two examples. By Sarah El Arifi is on the surface pretty similar to A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, except that El Arifi has created a fantasy world first and foremost. I fully understand the war, the politics.
Is it helpful to reference another thing nobody knows?
this is what they read. If this is what they're describing as bad, I want to know what it is.
I think this is a good example.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a good example.
The history of this place. It's very well established, and I can imagine it as a real world. So then I set foot in it and I start to follow the romance as it plays out. Good fantasy. Thus, pretty decent romantasy. And we also have The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon, a book about political military intrigue that is also a tropey romantasy book, an enemies to lovers story about an arranged marriage. But the author has fully coloured in the world that you then step into. You understand how it all works. The edges of the map have been filled in.
See, here's the problem. You are truly between you're truly on the fence, if you will, like between two lands, two countries, because normal women don't give a shit about any of that. They don't give a shit about the rationality of the world or any of that. They really only care about the emotional layer. It is a couple of the tomboys, a couple of the nerd girls that you saw at the role-playing table before the rainbow people got in and ruined everything, everyone's fun. Because you want to read the emotional romance, but you still need that male aspect in it. The world that makes sense. Which, yeah, good. That's a good what's the word? It's a good
Standard.
bar to set.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's a good standard. It's a good standard to have. The problem is, you don't understand that this stuff isn't written for you, or me, or men.
This is like describing going to the I don't know, the chocolatier or the candy store, and you're buying, I don't know, sugar saccharin candies, right? And everyone knows that the really cheap stuff is cheap, but that's why it's cheap. It's very simple. It's just straight sugar. might have a few flavors, and you're complaining, wow, this stuff is so basic. And then you combine that with like popcorn or chocolate or something else. You're like, wow, look at this other thing that combines these two things. It's so much better because it has this detail and this depth to it that the other thing doesn't. And you're like, yeah, but the thing is, the people like the chocolate because it has the sugar, and they like the popcorn because it has the sugar. That's why they have the sugar. They won't have the chocolate or anything else without the sugar. So the main focus is the sugar or the romance. And to give it another genre, another element, is again twice the effort. The writer has to do both. And unless they know how to do that, then it won't come naturally. They'll just focus on 80% of the story was going to be romance, and the rest is whatever they call fantasy in their narrative. So I get what they're saying, but I cannot fault the writer if they are writing this stuff and it is selling, because there's so much of this crap. So it's obviously working.
Are three-dimensional. Everything about this world feels tangibly real. So therefore, the stakes actually matter. And they feel bigger than just the romance. This is, to put it bluntly, a real novel. Romantasy books don't feel like real novels. The characters are not fleshed out in any way, and the world barely exists at all. The world is just a rough sketch, a flimsy backdrop that falls apart as soon as you touch it. So there is good romantasy out there in the sense
that's like describing any stage play. I mean, it's really, you're not there to look at the sets and the costumes, unless you want to talk about like Les Mis or Phantom of the Opera, where they put a lot of effort into pyrotechnics and technical stuff. But no, yeah, a lot of stage plays, an office desk, it's just a desk. The typewriter is just a guy moving his fingers. The phone is just a guy bringing his hand up to his head. Everything's make-believe. So it's the nature of the medium. So I don't see the problem. I know what they're trying to say, but I don't see the problem yet.
It's just what
there
the
is
author,
romantasy that actually has its fantasy element well and truly established and explored by authors who recognize that it is their job to create a fantasy world that functions and feels like a real place. And doesn't that help with the escape?
No, that's not their job.
Yeah.
You might very well think that, but it's not the case. What is their job is to write a book that sells. And apparently, there's a giant audience that doesn't have the standard that you and I or Smut or Horned Rabbit here has. Or the people in our audience here. The people who buy these books, which is why there are so many of these printed right now and distributed right now, is because this garbage is completely sufficient to the average woman.
Yeah, I would go.
And that is not a sexist statement. That is statistics.
I would go back to the visual novel, the eroges, I'm trying to compare it to similar genres, where all those things like the background, the backdrop, it's just a facade. And it's because we don't care. We don't care of the color scheme. We don't care about the sunsets. We don't care about someone's daily life. It's all about the interpersonal relationships and why that I can go on to all kinds of forums of guys talking about their favorite adult Western visual novel or adult Japanese novel. They love the characters because the writer focused on the drama aspect the most. The world is like, it's not even yeah, we got a generic high school from Japan. We got a generic college from America. It doesn't matter. We don't even know where these places are in relation to like the real world because it does not matter. It is so irrelevant to the story because we want to know why this person
makes the
thinks
story. Of course, it makes the story more tangible, more substantial.
Oh yeah,
if it's well described and all.
But
as I said, that's not relevant to the audience of these books.
Exactly. We don't need to know those things. It does not help us with the flow of the story.
You mean them?
Well, I mean, how much?
I like it when there's more substance.
Everyone likes more. Like, the argument is, well, you could always do more. You could always write more. Yeah, that's true. But for the nature of the genre, meaning the medium you're using, you do not need all of this dialogue. You do not need all of these internal monologues. You do not need all these flashbacks. You do not need all the flowery language outside of the drama between the two characters, or the many characters. So this is very evident, even when you watch TV, when you see dialogue on screen. It's all dialogue. There's no narration except for camera angles. And maybe you'll get like the stare, and you'll get the 10 seconds of people looking at each other and walking and talking, and you can't hear what they're saying, and maybe there's trauma happen. Like there's always some effect of the medium with TV or cinema. So that is just a developer or producer knowing how to use their tools and not going, you know what I'm going to do next chapter? I'll make it into a sci-fi novel. It's like, no. Or I'm going to add stuff that doesn't belong there. We see that. I
don't think that's the issue here.
Well, that's the style of genre being added. Like we talk about when developers get bored or producers get bored, like Buffy, they start doing crazy shit with they'll have a musical episode. Why not?
But that was the good one.
I know that was well produced, and that was
but it was also but it's also because that show took too long to figure out that it's comedy on the one hand and serious dark stuff on the other.
Yeah, the plot got dragged out. It was so long.
The 3 good episodes in that, and Buffy didn't have a plot. Come on.
Oh yeah, it was just very weak and very long.
It's so drawn out that it's basically nothing. There's more plot in Dragon Ball. Look, what I mean is that whole show had 3 good episodes and the rest was trash. The 3 good episodes, they really put their effort where it truly mattered. One is the musical episode, because that is one big round thing with even a juxtaposition or sort of fourth wall breaking within the musical, where if they get away enough from the spell of the demon, they can talk normally, but they go right back in, which is great. It's fantastic. The other 2 is the I don't remember the name, the silence episode. That is where they can't talk. Where it's really almost entirely visual storytelling. And that's proper horror. Or one aspect of proper horror. And the 3rd good episode that Buffy had was when Buffy's mom died. Because that entire episode was shot in a different style, in a series style, not in the sitcom camera, but with I'm doing something real, like the Ozarks or something. Not as desaturated, it rather had a sepia tone, which fits when you do beloved family member dies episodes. But also in that episode, you had, for once again, a basic vampire goon in the morgue wake up and and be an actual threat. The kind of goon that at that point in the show was always just trash to just throw around as if in Power Rangers. And in that episode, it suddenly had weight again because it was written serious. And these 3 episodes show what Buffy could have been overall. It could have been a fun yet serious World of Darkness show instead of what it was. Everything else of Buffy was basically the standard of the romantasy that this person is complaining about.
All right.
It's just your weekly entertainment crap.
Hard to understand how romantasy can be so escapist. Nowhere for you to escape to. Where are you going? Where is this world? How am I supposed to actually feel like I'm lost in it and distracted from my real world when I have no idea how this world functions at all? So when people tell me that romantasy is escapist, I struggle to believe them for 2 reasons. 1, everything I just said. The fantasy element is not there. Therefore, the world is not somewhere you can actually escape into. And the other reason, the big reason, the reason that we're here is the fact that the romance also isn't escapist. Let's take a look at some examples. This book here, with budget Will Poulter sitting ominously over my shoulder, is Quicksilver by Callie Hart. A book that gaslights you into thinking that just for a minute it might be a good novel. Now, I've made a video explaining all of this in detail, but I felt very betrayed by this book. See, for the first 100 pages of this novel, we are presented with a world that we can relatively understand and imagine is real. Thus, the escapism feels like a thing. And the best thing about the first 100 pages is the protagonist herself. She is presented as a kind of Aladdin figure, or maybe even like a Robin Hood type. She is a roguish teenage girl from the slums. She steals things and runs away from the cops. She defends her people, her family, her district. She's cheeky and daring. She throws out Spider-Man style quips at the city guards. She gives a nod.
Sounds like a standard female adventurer rogue. It's nothing special. It's good when it's written well, but it's almost a trope character at this point.
A wink and a smile to the reader. She's a lovable rogue. She is Han Solo.
What? She does fourth wall breaks? Fuck her then.
Teenage girl. Standing up against admirable and lovable. And there's nothing cringe about the writing either. The dialogue is fun and energized. She's also a very sexually liberated character. She talks about the people that she's slept with and the mistakes that she's made and how they've gotten her into hot water with local gangs. She's really fun, and I felt proud of her. I was excited to follow her journey. Then you hit page 100, and it feels as though the author basically says, what, you thought that this was going to be an interesting, dynamic, well-written fantasy story? No, my dear. No. This is conservative propaganda. This is a
Okay.
Let's get there.
Is a carbon copy of A Court of Thorns and Roses. What? How? Why? Well, around the 100-page mark, our protagonist reaches for a sword because she's in trouble. And as she does so, a puddle of liquid metal and a bunch of shadows drag her into a fairyland. And away she is whisked. And as soon as she arrives, she is hit with so much exposition about how this fairyland works. And the man who dragged her there, a cruel and abusive man, a dangerous man who has done terrible, awful things.
But you wanted world building,
An exposition,
which is,
yeah.
when it's plain exposition, of course, that's not great. But that's what you wanted. Be careful what you wish for. You must wish for it in very specific terms.
Oh no, this is the... If only it was done the way I wanted it to be done. This chocolate cake is not the real Sachertorte. This is not how I would do it. Like, oh.
No. There is no how you do it. There's Sachertorte and not Sachertorte.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
The way you do it is shit. If you want Sachertorte, you go to Austria.
You have to fly to Austria, and that is the only way you have the Sachertorte.
Sadly, yes. I have tried. I have tried it in Germany. It's a joke. It's a scam. I want those people sued.
I had some,
honestly, tarred, feathered, and catapulted.
I've had an actual German chocolatier do Sachertorte, and it was brilliant. And then I had another.
And he must have learned it.
He's a fourth generation. Yeah,
place.
his whole family's done it. And I went to a German bakery the first time, and they also did a very different, but a very classic turn of a Sachertorte. So I was like, wow, these guys.
Uh-huh.
And then I had an opera cake.
It's not a Sachertorte.
It's
a adjective Sachertorte.
It was Sachertorte-like. Let's just say they put stuff on top. Anyway,
it's like I have to tell you this because you know about this atrocity of this Dubai style this or that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
I didn't buy it. It was a gift when I was sick, not this time, but before. There's a pizza place here where you can order tiramisu with your pizza and whatever else you order, and it's okay. And during this Dubai style fashion, they have Dubai style tiramisu, which has nothing to do with tiramisu. It's just all this disgusting stuff they sell in these Turkish bakeries put together, and a way too sweet pistachio cream on top. That base barely tastes like pistachio. It's just green and so sugary. It soars through your gum. It's absolutely horrible. And I That's why I resent this idea at this point to call something a this or that the thing, because it's not the thing. You imitate, you have 3 layers of something that you put together, but it's not the thing, not even remotely. It's like when you say, oh, it's a Mario-style game. Uh-huh. Oh, what do you do? What do you do? What do you actually do?
decides to hate and calls him evil out him from other characters so that we can firmly establish that, yeah, he's evil and she knows it. She has all the info that she needs because it was dropped on her and us like a ton of bricks because the good writing went out the window. But the problem is that this toxic, awful man, this dangerous, murderous villain, he's really hot. So what is a girl to do, you know? He's really hot. He's so hot. You get what I'm saying? See,
yeah, that's how women function.
You mean this magical this magical, strong, violent creature steals the heroine and starts saying how awesome he is and how strong. Yeah, that's a fantasy.
And demonstrates it.
I'm not I'm not seeing the problem exactly.
I bet the other 200 pages are how she gets to tame him and he'll become a good guy.
Maybe.
And he'll stand sorry.
Because you've got a toxic, awful man who she knows is dangerous.
How is he toxic?
And evil and murderous and not to be trusted. But he's so gosh darn handsome. And it's not like in real life you get handsome men who turn out to be abusive, evil villains. In real life, cishet men are fully good. And that's boring. So we need good escapism.
Oh, that's a rare admission, thank you.
Where men are evil and dangerous and just so hot. No, wait, sorry, no.
Wait a second. Is this guy, like, not understanding the appeal and just realizing it now as they're speaking and trying to make a joke out of it?
It's an attempt to repeat. The repetition is the exaggeration. Is supposed to be the joke. It's supposed to make it comical. It kind of works enough because it's done so over the top.
There's plenty of stories with the bad boy and the bad girl, and they're ridiculously gorgeous or rich or whatever, and you're like, okay, what's the point of this, and why are they in the plot? And it's all about because they are this powerful character and they're influential, and that's the point.
In the end, what gets a woman's heart beating is confidence in a man. And that is demonstrated through acts of power, which can be negative acts. We are very, very simply wired, if we boil it down. Well, which makes sense in the old caveman society. It doesn't help that much in this way more complex world we have built on top of that with our huge brains that fail to figure that out.
I want to know what the conservative element is, what makes this character bad by virtue of being a villainous role. Is it because it happened so quickly? But they said there was exposition, so I was like, that seems to be fair. I don't know how. Again, you'd have to read the passage to see what happened, because we're talking about 100 pages. I'm assuming well-spaced, large font, so you're not wasting too much time. Because if you go from 100 pages of small font that's not well-spaced, that's dense. And then all of a sudden, boom, action, magic just comes out of nowhere in the next position. That's going to shock the reader. So I want to know if it's the actual tone change or the pacing change, or is it just she doesn't like, or he does not like the character for being fast and strong and villainous? I don't know. I want the conservative definition here, though.
Doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound like escapism at all. In fact,
Yes,
it feels like instead we are for some reason romanticizing toxic, awful men. And it's not like the vast.
Wait. You're saying in your romance fantasy you're romanticizing a villain? Is that not the nature of the genre to do that? Or the women in the story as well? I'm not seeing the problem.
Violence and abuse is perpetrated by cishet men, right? Against women, right? Where is the escapism in
So the violent man who's empowering the female, you don't like.
Okay, I get it. So the escapism would be if the story, if the world and the story would work differently from reality in every way.
Every way.
Then only then it's escapism.
Well, let's take the
That's
man.
not how that works.
The man villain character. Let's make him a woman. Would this person complain if it was a female being strong and confident and whatever?
No, because then it would be gay.
Yeah, but not even gay. It's just a woman. There's just I'm a
Yeah,
strong.
it's lesbian. That's the,
Well, no.
There was a time where that was called gay.
No,
as well.
she could be hot and she could be strong and she could have teleportation powers and whatever. And she's just, look at me, I'm awesome and I captured you. Ha ha. Would that be okay?
Yeah, because that's what the romance is about then.
But then,
It's then a lesbian relationship.
but then where's the conservatism? Where's the
because the other woman is gonna beat up the main girl and force her into things, which is just a conservative portrayal of lesbian relationships, which totally has absolutely no statistic significance whatsoever
So-
in reality.
so male equals conservatism just because they're dealing with a female? That doesn't make any sense.
No. Oh God, the complaint presented here is that the love interest for the female protagonist, who is herself a rather spunky, competent adventurer, is a big, strong, evil man with superpowers.
I don't get it. I really
The
don't.
beast. It's because it's the beast
I understand.
and not already tamed.
Yeah, I get the archetypes. I get that, but I'm not seeing how that has a political element to it at all.
Because the question is rather, why is it portrayed as a conservative point
Yeah, but
when the toxic man thing was coined by the feminists?
yeah, but they haven't got into the political. They just said male, strong, whatever. And you're like, okay, but that has nothing to do with politics.
I think it was mentioned that it's also the evil guy.
Is he part of a feudalistic society? Are they strict? Are they orthodox? Like, what are you talking? Like, what's going on? I don't get it.
I think words like murderous and such
Yeah,
were
maybe.
used before. That's just like, yeah.
Presenting
that
us
guy.
horrible, toxic, dangerous man who demeans our protagonist and removes her agency, who steals her away and traps her against her will, who calls her demeaning nicknames, who threatens
She
her,
likes it.
who erases all the color from her life.
So, Beauty and the Beast takes Belle.
Uh-huh.
Pretty much everything she just described. He just described.
Told ya.
The personality that we, the reader, about her. Where is the escapism in presenting us with a man?
What
No,
are
it's a
you
fetish.
talking about?
You don't understand.
This is so
because it's not this person's fetish. This
No,
person
no.
cannot understand it.
No. We went.
Because there are women who want that to happen to them.
We have.
It's part of the rape fantasy.
Okay,
You lose
fair.
all control because the man erases remolds about you and remolds you into what he wants you to
That could be the fetish that the author was going for, but maybe this person doesn't like that. I get that. That's fine. We just spent 100 pages building up this character, and she's awesome, she's strong, she's sexual, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, bam, this guy comes in and is like, oh, look at me, I'm stronger than you. And she's offended by that. This is normal. This is good writing. You want to have an opposition that is greater than the protagonist. That's why we have Star Wars. And that's why it works. We have this gigantic empire. We have this supremely powerful Darth Vader
Oh
dude.
man, it's better than that. Isn't that just the story between Goku and Tenshin Han, Goku and Piccolo, Goku and Vegeta?
Well, in every instance,
No
of-
homo.
when you're talking about physical fights, there's always, especially Dragon Ball, there's always like an unknown. Like, oh, this guy's even stronger. You just
No,
don't
it's
know.
always it's always an evil guy coming along who's so
yeah.
much more powerful, basically destroys your entire world, makes you feel completely powerless, and then you somehow become friends.
And you
No homo.
you lose, then you win again, or you lose, keep losing, and keep pushing and pushing, and Goku ends up being able to grow out of that. So that's in Dragon Ball's world, yeah. In this, I'm not seeing.
I think this is the same thing.
Well, I'm not seeing a problem. Again, we don't know the story. We don't know what happens at chapter or page 100 and what happens in that chapter. But this is normal. You introduce things like the world of being, which is whether it's from rags to riches or riches to rags. You establish things. You say, okay, here's your character. He's awesome at, I don't know, ice hockey. And all of a sudden, this Russian dude from chapter 10 comes in, and he's like this 10-year vet playing ice hockey for getting most goals or whatever, and he just crushes your team. You're like, oh my God, what do we do?
All alone by himself.
He just decks everyone, hip checks, crashes through. Yeah, this is normal. This is Rocky 4. This is normal.
Happens to be hot and telling us that this is a romance. That
Yes.
is not escapism.
Yes,
That
it
is
is.
the unfortunate lived reality of so many.
Oh, fuck off. This is so dumb.
it's just fetishism.
This is dumb. If this person does not understand the genre of romance, and somehow I think this is a guy thing, because we like fantasy, we like detail, we like world building, we like physics, we like science, we like all the little details of why something works. This dude's male brain cannot fathom the concept of the female desire to have romance of any kind of
No.
any
I do believe that there is an understanding for romance, but sadly, this one stuck halfway, as our dysphoric brains are, has not figured out that there is, so maybe it's not that far on the other side, has not figured out that the female brain does wish for dominance, because dominance is a proof of confidence and competence, with all the negativity that comes with it, which is why it works as a novel fetish, and has always existed. That's why it is there. That doesn't mean women want that to actually happen in real life to them, but man doesn't get them into trouble. That's the sad thing.
in the Western world. And this is why I call books like Quicksilver and
In the Western world,
Yeah, I don't know.
not in the Eastern.
Who
Do we
knows?
have to talk about Islam again? Are you in Britain?
Let's not get into the Eastern romance novels. There's a whole bunch of
Well,
those.
the East is in the West now, so I guess we have to talk about it at some point.
Court of Thorns and Roses, conservative propaganda, because they are presenting you with escapism that is simply a tough young woman falling into a romantic situation with a violent and abusive man. These are books that begin by presenting you with a self-insert character who is a strong young woman. That is always how they begin.
Man, okay. Your beef is with the authoress then,
I'm not okay.
as that has come clearly a woman writing herself into the story, who then writes her fetish fantasy of being dominated by an evil guy.
Yeah, I seem to remember a story from Terry Brooks called "The Night" or "A Night of the Word," and it's about a guy who's a magician. He's strong, he's male, whatever, and he falls in love with the most beautiful woman ever in his concept. And we've discovered that woman is a demon or some kind of dark wind or whatever they're called. And he has to make even though this demon is telling him how much she loves him and it doesn't matter about whatever he'll never betray her or betray him. He knows he has to come to the realization he has to stop her. And that's the tragedy of the story. He falls in love. They both fall in love. Everything's great, but he knows it's not real, or he at least knows that this person is evil. Even though there's nothing in the story that their behavior towards the other is negative in any way. By their nature, it's kind of like the story of the scorpion, the frog and the scorpion on the leaf. That's what it ends up coming down to. And there's all kinds of romantic interludes. It's not flowery like romance, but there is romance. So that's the story of one of the plots of that book. And there's magic and there's all kinds of stuff going on in there. So I can relate to that from the opposite point of view of the male main character, or one of the main characters being male, who falls in love with the seductress. And we're not just talking about any seduction, we're talking about like the most gorgeous woman you can imagine, sort of idea. And him saying, no, you are evil. You must be stopped. And I would not care if the story went the other way. If he says, no, you're right, you haven't hurt me, I'm not going to kill you, and then whatever else he decides upon. So, and I'm not saying this other character was written better or worse. It just made sense that you could understand both sides. So whether he was transfixed or seduced or rebellious, it doesn't matter. It's the thought process was there. So maybe there's exposition that the author is not doing with the other characters in the story or the plot. I don't know. But this is not propaganda. It's just a writer. I really don't think the author of Quicksilver, whatever the hell book it was, is some sort of like right-wing leaning crazy person who thinks all men are strong and all women are weak or something like that. Which again has nothing to do with politics. So
feminists as well. When you actually see how they date and what they fantasize about, what they read, it is exactly this stuff. Because in the end, the emotions rule. And this person has the trouble of probably thinking about the relationship between men and women in a taught manner of what is politically correct to be, how to have your relationship, instead of what do you feel about what kind of man would you want, what would get you hot, because that is a different thing. It's not always the thing that is safe or long lasting, but that's just how we are wired, and sometimes we have to consciously act against that. Some stories are written just about that part. Yet if we follow too much into these hardwired patterns, that it gets the better of us. So we need a combination of a little bit of what makes us feel nice and a little bit of, wait a minute, let's think that through to the end and rather find something in between.
All right. 12 minutes.
We could have talked about World of Warcraft.
We can go for a few more, and I'm going to stop because this is, I think we're going to get nowhere. I think the definition is not coming, and I think they're just combining whatever they think conservatism is with whatever they think toxic masculinity is, because it's all these buzzwords were coming out, and I'm like, all right, well, I'll let them say it, but I don't think they're accurate. Like a strong male villain is toxic. It's like, okay, that could be true.
Isn't that the point?
Sometimes, I guess.
All of these books, they start with a brave someone to admire. Then they present you with a horrible, abusive man. And along the way, that man is horrible and toxic and...
Okay, wait. Again.
You figured out how women, what kind of shit women read.
Yeah.
Wonderful. You figured out the pattern. Now you can write it yourself and make $1 million.
Now, if you take away the fantasy, all it is a romance, right? So you have the strong man, you have the weak woman or whatever. And I'm like, this is the definition of a romance. The protagonist, male or female, is fighting against the antagonist, male or female, and that's it. That's the conflict.
Just that in the past, it was just these kinds of little novels about the doctor in the mountain village who comes from outside and moves there, and then there's a story with that, and there's like 1 million books in Germany about that. They're called Groschenromane, which means like 10-cent novel for 10 cents. It was like 100 years ago. That was the price, and probably due to things like Game of Thrones and Pirates of the Caribbean, this kind of novel morphed into, let's do it all with fantasy and with werewolves and with vampires. And now we are here, and it's not great for those who like actual fantasy. Yeah. Because this is tourist fantasy.
Well, even if we
not about the fantasy.
Even if we flip the genders, which would be kind of weird. So you have a male protagonist who's weak, and then you have a strong female antagonist.
There are people who are into that.
Yeah, I mean, it could work. I don't know how, but it could definitely have the strong female chase after the weak male. I'm like, okay, that could happen.
Yeah, they call that the tomboy muscle mummy.
Oh yeah.
Something like that.
All right. So I'm sure there's something. Yeah, I'm sure there's I don't know, women who like those kinds of stories. I can't see men liking those as a novel format, at least.
There was this screen text about being pursued by a beautiful female werewolf and beautiful female vampire,
Oh.
and then some of the guys went, "Oh, okay, I kind of get it."
Yeah. It's a fantasy for sure, yeah. Oh boy.
That the protagonist is going to take all of that abuse, and the author will present us with a really unimaginative and uninteresting heteronormative sex scene, and a romance will continue to bloom. This is so incredibly
Heteronormative. So your problem is
the
with
problem.
it's a man and a woman.
I think so. Yeah. That's what I'm
Otherwise, you
getting.
wouldn't have need for the adjective.
Yeah.
If you don't need the adjective to make your point, don't use it. Because when you say adjective complaint, that means that you want the opposite, or at least the absence of what that adjective describes, meaning you want non-heterosexual relationships.
Yeah, I think that's as far as we need to go here, because I don't think we're going to get a definition of politics. And for them, because they've been using this loaded language throughout the entire video, and I'm just like, okay, well, let it go. We don't care. But now that they used it in this specific element that they're unhappy about, we're like, oh, this is why. This is the problem. The guy's not a girl.
When you're that loaded with ideology, I suggest a brain scan, and I mean
Well,
that unironically. I mean that with the best of interest.
Yeah, because
Get back to your therapist and get a brain scan.
well, in this case, if this person was not weird and was not using this language, we could argue, or we could listen to their argument in a more cleaner way and go, okay, I see what they're getting at with having this boring male who's just the boring male, when it's combined with a genre that needs detail to make sense. And then you could argue the prose is not matching, and there's a disconnect between the romance and the prose, or the romance and the dialogue, or whatever. Then we can say, great, I understand where you're coming from. Right now, it's like, nope, I'm a weirdo. I like gays, and the gays are the goods, and the non-gays are the bads. And you're like, no, come on, dude. That doesn't work. You cannot say that, because you already have a bias towards romance, or your flavor of romance. Then you put on top of that a bias towards sexuality, and then the language on top of sexuality, which is the trans crap, and we're lost. I'm like, what are you getting at? Because I can't follow 1/3 of that properly. So we can go for 30 seconds. Yeah, 30 seconds. Make it 13 minutes.
incredibly dangerous and toxic, reinforcing the
How's it
idea that
dangerous?
this is what men are like, and that in itself is somehow sexy
No.
and a good
It's escapism. Remember, you're not supposed to.
Oh no, not that. It's not necessarily a good thing. It's coupled with the female power fantasy of making it through that,
Yeah.
finding love in it, and making the man better.
I can fix it.
That's the female power fantasy,
Yes.
and it is telling that you do not understand that.
Yeah.
The gays certainly do
interesting,
understand it.
exciting thing, and eventually you will sleep with and fall in love with and marry these toxic, abusive, awful men. It's not escapism. It's
It is escape. You said
It is escapism.
every form of media is escape, or whatever. Whatever story is escapism. So it is escapism, unless you're making the argument that video games cause violence, or romance causes werewolf sex in reality, or some bullshit. Like, what are you talking about?
You know, the thing is, women who are not in these horrible relationships, they read that because they don't have the experience.
Well,
the same reason that people watch action and war movies, because they haven't been in those things. When they have been in those things, they have very little incentive to actually watch them. Then
Yeah,
the
but
drive isn't there.
jump.
So those women aren't reading that.
We jumped from fiction is escapism and everything's great to, oh, what about the children reading this? They're going to grow up to have abusive relationships. Like,
Hey, you know what that means? You know what that means? Either we speaking purely hypothetically, I try to empathize. That means we cannot write any escapism, fantasy, in the trans narrative, whichever you choose,
The trans
because it exists in reality. Or if we can, then it is fantasy because it's not possible with real life means, but only through magic.
Oh God, that's so limited.
Aha.
That is the smallest corridor you could write a story with more than one genre, just because some person online thought, oh, men are strong, that's bad. Like, what? What if the strong female lead was a male? Again, we swap the genders again.
The man isn't just. It's the problem for this person is not just that the man is strong, but also that he's evil and abusive.
Oh God.
That's on top of that, and that's all these women romance novels that currently reside in the fantasy genre. It's basically this women's fetish is currently in its isekai phase, but isekai is fantasy.
Okay. The isekai phase.
Are you starting to get it?
Well, that's a bit of a stretch, but okay.
It'll be maybe for some mad reason in 20 years they'll move to science fiction.
Oh, jeez, it's already there. Don't worry.
I know that there was some really bad Star Trek stuff.
Yeah. All right. Threadnought, thank you, sir, for the 5, and then we're going to call it a day with the stream memes. In these stories, there would be the villain who would be an evil bastard the audience hates. I don't understand why villains are so unlikable. Yeah, exactly. What an idea. The villain is bad. Ay. Do we have any memes? Please say no.
Oh, you're giving up? Okay.
We got. Oh yeah. I was going to go for another 10 seconds, but who cares? It's always gonna. It's gonna keep.
There's just nothing coming.
Yeah, it's all gonna be crap after that. All right. What do we got?
Oh wow, we have stuff.
Baby teeth. What's that? Being genuinely insane books, and then the wives. Does anyone?
I am glad I don't know either.
I don't. Are these like romance? What are these? They look like slice of life, but they could be horror. They could be fantasy. Who knows?
This
Thank
looks
you.
like some kind of psychological horror.
Yeah, that would be cool. That's psychological horror plus romance. Wow, that's interesting. It is a genre or a subgenre. It is there. Boys, let's slay dragons, girls.
Hey, since boys invented monster girls, everything is
It is
fine.
It is accurate. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's funny. Even actual porn is better written than these romantasy books. Okay. Sunstone. I don't know what that is.
Ugly.
And what do we got here?
That looks like Asuka from
Yep.
Evangelion, and it's probably a doujin.
Yep, probably. For Wisp, alternative of Buffy, want a serious action horror fantasy, watch Garo.
Garo.
Nice.
That has been recommended to me a few times now. I need to remember it.
Yeah, nice sword
And find it.
or blade. Interesting. Want a horror comedy with a plot? Check out Ash vs. Evil Dead. Classic.
Oh yeah.
I just
That is
find
so
it-
much fun. And I generally don't watch horror and gore, but with Ash vs. Evil Dead, it works.
This is
That's where it
the
works.
series, not the movie.
It's the series. It's great.
Yeah.
It has Lucy Lawless in it, and
What?
And, well, yes.
I gotta watch that.
See, finally, that's how you get it.
Lucy Lawless, I'll watch it. She's awesome.
We can watch it together.
Oh, maybe. There we go. All art is political. Well, yeah, it kind of applies to this. I hate escapism and feel the need to shove my politics and everything. I don't think it's their politics. I think it's their
No,
bad.
it's their fetish.
Closer
The
to
fetish
that.
must be in everything, because in the end, the political correctness is also just an emotional fetish.
It is a form of virtue signaling for sure. Yeah. It's. We did not get a definition of politics. We did not get an understanding of what conservatism meant to male or masculinity. So you don't do that. You don't start accusing an entire subgenre or a group of authors of a thing without defining it properly. It's not a good look. You're not making any sense. You're just saying I dislike thing because feelings or whatever. Anyway, Oh, there's more. I'm not gonna read that. That's too tiny.
Read it. It's good. It's good.
I will read it later. I can't.
Do it now.
No.
Do it.
Too small.
Oh.
Anyway, I'll read it later.
You can click on it. Discord makes it bigger now.
I did.
It's
Anyway.
magical.
Anyway. That wasn't so bad. And we started late because I had computer problems, so thanks guys for tuning in.
Yeah.
The video was not that horrible. I mean, it was bad. It wasn't horrible. It was, it's always the 10-minute mark where they get the stuff off their chest first, and they finally get to the core of the thing they're trying to say.
And then at some point come the final 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Which we didn't get to today.
Well,
Where the true insanity happens.
we could probably see another one of this person's videos. It wouldn't bother me. It's okay. Anyway, another bad take about writing. It happens all the time. Don't worry about it. And
Can we do my suggestion tomorrow?
if we have time, yeah, maybe. Why not?
It's about game design.
Sure.
Something related to this channel.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you guys for the ideas there. Yeah, it's been a pretty crazy week here in Canada, but I'm not going to get into that because I need a break still. And
crazy
life
everywhere.
goes on. I know. There's elections happening all over the world now. So what are you going to do?
Oh yeah, the UK elections were fun.
Yeah. Then the Australian ones. I can't remember who else is next.
Australia has elections. I thought they had a prison wall.
Yeah. Australia. It's doing something.
Polish ones are in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. Holy shit. Jeez.
Oh, fuck.
Crazy. You know what? The king is coming to Canada to give his speech for some reason. I don't know.
Oh, the traitor king.
I don't know. World is going upside down now. Anyway, we will talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you later. Good night.
Night.
All right.